the more track time you can get, the better you're going to drive, the more you're going to experience that Zen-like peaceful experience. There's no wrong way to get involved at the racetrack. I would just say the more you can check your ego at the gate, the better off the experience is going to be.
You're listening to Drive Sport, the amateur track driver podcast. Here's your host, DMC.
Hello and welcome to Drive Sport. My name is Dave, but for this show, please call me DMC. And I'm here to help you learn how to get on the track, have a wonderful experience, improve your skills, and be able to keep doing it over and over. And my guest today is someone that I knew from the beginning when I started this podcast that I wanted to speak with him. He's had such an influence on the track driving scene in Utah. And he's just a fantastic person to get to know. This is Iyar Koren. Iyar, how you doing?
Doing great today. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the invite.
Yeah, you have such a wealth of knowledge and you're doing so many things to bring awareness and bring knowledge to what people can do at the track. So can you give us just a little bit of background, first of all, on what you do? What are the things that you provide?
Sure. So currently I run Autostrada. Autostrada is essentially the Supercar program out of the track for Supercar owners to come out and learn to drive on track and then enjoy the driving experience in a very gentlemanly-like fashion. Not a competitive environment, but more a safe environment where they don't need to worry about their car and they can enjoy and also not worry about a speeding ticket.
Yeah. And you're using the word supercar. How are you defining that? And also expand, like, typically what kind of cars are we talking about here?
Yeah, very loosely. So higher end performance cars, although we do have Ferrari, McLaren, Lamborghini, Aston Martin, we also are very accepting of a Corvette Z06, for example, a Z51 even, no problem. Mustangs, we've had Shelby GT500s, as well as the GT350. And quite honestly, if you're going to behave yourself gentlemanly, we're welcoming of quite a number of cars into the Supercar program. We just need to keep it safe for the Supercar owners. It needs to be a friendly, comfortable environment where their cars are safe. So if you do have a Miata and you want to come out and you want to enjoy it and you're not going to harass the Supercar owners, but you're going to come be a friendly automotive enthusiast, then you're welcome as well. If you're going to try and prove that your Miata is faster than the Supercar, that's when we're going to have to ask you to leave.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a tone and a feel there. I really love that phrase, gentlemanly. I feel like that's a great way to put it. And I do like the variety of cars that we see out there and the variety of people. And you're also providing a networking aspect, right?
For sure. We provide 4 hours of on-track experience, and it is nonstop. And obviously, there are very few drivers that can go 4 hours of nonstop driving. You need to cool off. Your car needs to cool off. You need to grab a drink. And so that's essentially when that happens. So guys will go out for a little bit, come in for a bit, grab a sandwich, grab a drink, hang out, chat about cars, chat about their experience on track, talk with the instructors, talk about their lines, go out and try it again, grab an instructor, go out with an instructor. And it's a good VIP experience. It is a little bit more money than the membership program at Burt Brothers, but it also offers some unique features that are geared more towards a VIP experience.
Okay, so let's back up just a little bit, ER, and get to how you got into this. I know that you have a background in computers, right? So how did you get into this space of being an expert in supercars?
What happened was, my background, like you said, is in computers. I'm a Microsoft certified systems engineer from back in 1998. So it's been a few minutes. And as my love for automotive continued and developed, although I will tell you that it started even from the very first little bit of money that I made in the computer space, every dollar of that went into car parts or car components or buying a new car. And as both of those things developed, what happened was they kind of overlapped each other in the tuner space. So back in the AEM Series 1 era, bought an Evo and it needed some tuning. And I went to some of the local tuning shops and I didn't end up getting exactly what I wanted. And I ended up on the phone with AM directly. Within a short period of time, I became AM certified and opened a performance shop. And the performance shop then did automotive tuning and merged the computers and the cars into one thing. And then that progressed into nicer and nicer cars, which eventually led me into nicer and nicer cars, which also progressed into what you see behind me, which is the museum. So after my collection of cars got a little bit bigger and I was looking for a space to house them, a space to house them didn't quite exist at the time. I had a couple friends with warehouses, but it wasn't quite what I was looking for. Ended up choosing a partner and opening up a car museum. Now we're opening our 5th location shortly, and it's been good. It's been a good run.
That's the fascinating thing I find about what you're doing, ER, is sometimes I think there's a little bit of divide, and that divide even exists in my head a little bit myself. Maybe I'm just speaking for myself, between driving the cars and looking at the cars, right? And some people really, really love come anywhere to the car show and just look at the cars. I fall in the category of wanting to drive it, wanting to get the car out there. It seems like you're catering to both groups, both those who love appreciating everything that the car has to offer visually and offer what the car can do on the track.
So I actually think there's more than 2 groups. I think that's what makes cars so great, actually. So you have this thing that doesn't exist very frequently, where you have the combination of art and science, form following function, and function following art that just doesn't exist in a lot of other sectors. So you've got a component that appeals to just about everybody. So whether we're talking about just looking at the cars or driving the cars, or whether it's some mixture of those things, right? So the third category that I would say throw in there is you've got people that come into the museum and they don't know anything about cars. And they don't even necessarily know what any of the cars are, but they come into the museum and they're like, wow, that's pretty. That's pretty. What is that? And they don't appreciate the science behind it. They don't appreciate the horsepower. They don't appreciate the exotic materials that are in use to make it lightweight. They don't appreciate what it takes to bring the car to a stop. They don't know any part of any of those things. And then you've got the second group. They want to come in and they want to see something they haven't seen before, and they see the body shape, but that means less to them than the specifications, how light it is, how much horsepower it has, what are the brakes, whether they're carbon ceramic or whether they're steel. They're interested in the specifications, and for them, they can almost taste it just by knowing the specifications. And then, of course, the group that you're talking about, where they really need to feel it with all of their senses. They need to drive it in order to really appreciate it. And I cater to all of those people because I am all of those people. I can appreciate the art component of it, the design component. I can appreciate the mechanical component because it is that impressive. And then, of course, driving it is just the next level experience that I wish more people could experience and would experience. Even the supercar owners end up buying the car and they end up leaving it in their garage for a long time, and they're too scared to drive it, and they're missing out on some of the experience, which is, like you said, your favorite part and mine also.
Yeah. And that's what I love about what you're doing, is it is such a wide range of appreciation of the cars, and you're giving people an opportunity to do something that they maybe even hadn't considered. And you're right. It makes me sad when I see someone with a beautiful car that is engineered to be enjoyed at a level you cannot enjoy on the street fully, and they're not taking that opportunity. So you're providing that for them. Do you have maybe a story or an illustration of someone who graduated from that place of just owning the car to being able to take it on the track, and what that did for them?
Absolutely. I've got more than one example. I've got guys that have never been on track before that have really nice cars. whether it's a Z06 Corvette C8 recently, or a F8 Tributo, or guys with Amiras, Lotus Amiras. Actually, my favorite story is a 765 LT. It was delivered straight to the racetrack. The guy had never driven it before. So he'd never driven it on track, never driven it on the street, and he'd never actually driven a sports car, not on the street or on the track. So he was about as fresh as you could possibly be. Bought the car, had it delivered to the racetrack.
Amazing.
His insurance required that he have an instructor with him at all times. And one of the other instructors was like, man, you are so lucky that you get to go spend time in this 765 LT. Like, he wanted me as the McLaren guy because I've had quite a number of them and instructed in quite a number of them. And so he wanted just me. And this other instructor was like, man, you're so lucky. That is so crazy. Like, that just doesn't even make sense. Like, not fair. I took 2 laps with him and I was like, okay, you know what, dude? You can go with him from here on out. He's yours for the rest of the day. Cause the guy it wasn't the fact that he didn't have any driving experience, cause that we can overcome very quickly. It was that he thought that he had a ton of driving experience without any, right? So he thought that all it takes is a driver's license in order to be able to drive on track.
Which is so untrue.
Yes. And he was just driving so aggressively and not listening to anything that I was saying that I was happy to hand him off to another instructor.
But I'm assuming it went well with that other instructor.
It did. He was fine. Car was fine. Everything worked out okay. He was able to get him to listen. He just forced him to pit a lot. He was just like, for the first little bit, every lap was a pit lap and he just took it slow. But yeah, everything went great. And, I've been instructing for a long time. I've only had a few cars that have left the track, but most of them have not.
Which, by the way, I think I've mentioned this in another podcast. It's part of the nice thing of the home track that in particular we're working with Burt Brothers, formerly Utah Motorsports Campus. It's safe. I mean, in most cases, yeah, like you exit the track and you get some gravel and you get some dirt and you're back on the track. So that's nice to have that luxury.
For clarity, in 10 years of instructing on a very regular basis, I've had, I think, 3 cars that have left the track, paved surface, and none of them had any real damage. There's only one that had some damage, and that was again just somebody that thought that they were born with driving skills. And for clarity, none of us, not the instructors and not anybody that has ever come to the track that I've had the pleasure of working with. Some people start in different places, but no one is born knowing how to drive on track. And everybody can benefit from instruction. Even as an instructor, I go out with another instructor and they point out things that I maybe have missed. And it's just nice to have another set of eyes out there. So everybody can benefit from instruction. And like you said, it is one of the safest places that you can be. You don't have to worry about oncoming traffic. You don't have to worry about a speeding ticket. You have a lot of lane in order to control the car in. And even when you lose control, you can generally keep it on the paved surface. And very rarely does it happen, but periodically somebody will leave the track. And even when that happens, the worst thing is generally their car gets a little bit dirty. And that you can't say that about every track, but you can certainly say that about Burt Brothers Motor Park, it is just one of the safest places that you can enjoy your vehicle and really push it to its limit and to your limit.
That gets me to a place that I want to talk to you about, Iyar, which is, first of all, my background as a business and leadership and executive coach is that coaching is wonderful. It is fantastic. And you want it as much as you can because we all benefit from it. And I have multiple coaches in multiple areas of my life, from business to mental health to the physical aspect of it. And yet, all too often when I get on the track, I see people who are wanting to get out of coaching as quickly as possible. They want to end it and get away from it, when the thing that you should be doing is saying, please give me as much as you possibly can, because you're going to benefit.
It's really easy to tell the guys that are going to do really well on track from the guys that are going to be struggling for years. It's the guys that are always asking for a coach. Those are the guys that are going to do really well really quick. The guys that are always like, no, I think I got this, I'm good. Those are the guys that are going to stay at whatever level they're at for a long, long time.
And maybe that's all they want, is just to experience the joy of going around the track in circles, but you're missing out on a learning opportunity. So let me ask you a question, for, instructor to instructor. When you get someone like that in the car, what do you do to manage their expectations and try to shift them more into a more coachable mindset when they're resistant to it?
The number one priority is, of course, safety, right? So if they're being safe and they don't want to go any faster, then that's totally fine. And I don't push it. I just ask them what they want to work on. And if they're like, I don't really even think I need a coach in here, I'm like, oh, let me just go with you for a moment. Let's make sure that you've got a good idea of the lines. And, I'll keep it brief and you can go out there by yourself here in just a bit. But safety is what I'm really looking for. So if they're being safe and they want to stay slow, then that's fine. I don't push them. But if they are asking for advice, then I, of course, try and get them to move as quickly as possible. And man, it's amazing. The guys that are open to instruction, they can get so good so fast. It's always baffling to me because as a coach, you're always like, man, this guy's going to get so good that I won't be able to teach him anything. So periodically I get in the car with somebody and I'm like, man, that was really, really good lap. That you're on the line, you're braking where you need to brake, you're on throttle where you need to be on throttle. And then you sit with them a couple more laps and you're like, actually, let's wait just a little bit longer before we turn in on this turn. And then it's really interesting because it's hard to critique yourself when you're driving because there's so much going on and so quickly. That split moment where you're concentrating on something other than exactly the right thing, you could be missing the brake mark, your brake zone by a couple feet. And that's 1/10 of a second, right? And so it's really easy to keep doing the same thing and not see where you could improve. And you need to be in the passenger seat and to look at it when you're not driving, whether it's recorded video or whether it's with another coach, and where they're like, have you tried it this way? Sometimes that feedback just makes such a difference.
So you said something there, and I'm going to just use a moment to insert a little bit of my philosophy. You said, have you tried this? Which is a question. And I really love the power of questions. When I coach someone that's improving, one of the things that I do is say, hey, between this session and the next one, we're going to take a little break. I want you to think about questions you have for me. And also, as an instructor, one time I was being coached by a younger guy, great driver. He knew that I was an instructor and he was like, I'm kind of nervous. I'm like, don't be nervous. I have tons to learn from you. And then at the end, he was like, do you have feedback for me? And I said, use more questions. When you are coaching someone who's advanced, you don't need to tell them everything that they need to do, but you do need to ask the right questions. Have you considered this line? What's happening right now? What do you feel right now from your seat? Where do you think you're struggling? And questions are such a great shortcut to both learning and coaching effectively.
Yeah, I agree completely.
I want to go back to the museum a little bit with just the question that I've had, and something that's just been my curiosity, which is, what is the relationship between the museum and the track? Do you see that one feeds the other? Do they stay separate? How does that all work out in terms of your customers?
Yeah, there's a good working relationship there. So, I won't say that everyone that stores a car with us comes out on track, and I won't say that everybody that comes out on track stores a car, but there is certainly some crossover. and we've got customers that are doing both and enjoying both. We have a lot of classic cars in the museum. Classic cars are not the most ideal for that, but
It's a lot of abuse for an older car to take on the track.
yeah, and for clarity, it's, people are worried, and I'd really like to dispel this myth given the opportunity. People assume that taking their car on track ruins their car. And I see this the most when people list a Z06, for example, and they say never been tracked. And I'm like, what a waste for you as the owner, and what a waste for the car, because it's never had its fluids really heated up appropriately. It's never, the brakes have never gotten to temperature in order to make use of the carbon ceramics. I mean, it really doesn't ruin a car to take a car on track. It will wear consumables faster that are going to wear sooner or later anyway, right? So whether you actually use your tires or you throw them away because they got old, they're no good this way or that way, right? So may as well bring it out to the track, use the tires, use the brakes. The brakes after a while aren't good either. But people have this misconception that they're going to take their car on track and it's going to break everything. And the car it's abused now and no one wants it. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. Honestly, a car that has been on track has had the opportunity to have some of the issues that you might run into later addressed early on during the warranty period. So I agree with you. You can certainly wear tires and brakes. Those are consumables. They're going to get old this way or that way. You may as well enjoy the car. You paid to own the car. You should pay to enjoy the car, or you should enjoy the car that you've already paid for, really.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I regret using that. After hearing that explanation, I go, okay, I used the wrong word there. It does put the car under more stress. And I think that's what you're saying is it's almost like a shakedown in a way. It's like saying, okay, we find out what is not quite right with this car when we put it on the track. And then hopefully you're doing the maintenance. Hopefully either you're doing great work or you have a great mechanic and they're fixing those issues so that they no longer are issues.
Exactly. And the comment about classic cars is cars are technology. As much as cars are art and science, the science part is technology. And that just gets better over the years. And so that Viper sitting behind me, for its era, it was an awesome track car. But as you compare that to a modern McLaren, it can't really compare. So as you bring out a classic car to the racetrack, people generally get a little bit disappointed because the car doesn't handle as good. It doesn't brake as good. It doesn't accelerate as good. And consequently, they only do that ever one time. And then they're like, okay, I saw what it was like. Pretty much any modern car is better than that. And it's because of their technology. I mean, they certainly the art component holds a special place in our heart for different body styles and designs and so on. But cars are technology. And the truth is most modern cars are better than most classic cars out on the racetrack as well as on the street.
Yeah, it's a fascinating point. It's almost like the older it gets, it leans a little bit more and more art over time in terms of the appreciation of things.
100%. Yeah. I mean, that's actually a better and simpler way of saying it. So I think I'm going to steal that from you.
Yeah, well, I learned that from you. I just parsed it. So, last question I want to ask about Autostrada in particular. You mentioned how you're creating this gentlemanly VIP experience. What is your mindset in terms of customer service? You have a new customer that's coming in. What are you trying to do to make sure that they have a VIP experience?
I think it's a number of different things. So first, they need to feel safe, just like we've been talking about, right? So they need to feel like their car is going to be protected and they don't need to worry about damage to their car. They need to feel safe around others, that other people are also going to respect their car and their property so that, there's not somebody that has something to prove. At one point we were trying to differentiate cars by speed, but it turns out that's not really what makes it dangerous. What makes it dangerous is somebody's attitude. So if somebody is driving a Miata and they feel like it's critical for them to show that they're faster in the corners, and so they dive bomb the other car into the corners, that's when things are dangerous, and that's when cars get hurt and people get hurt, and we don't want either of those. So a good chunk of the gentlemanly track day and making somebody have a VIP experience is making them feel safe and making it so that their property is safe and that nobody goes away hurt or with a loss of money. Beyond that, it's about being respectful of their time. So a lot of the guys that come out, although we have 4 hours of on track, they can't participate in the whole 4 hours. So they can come out, and for the brief time that they're out, they need to be able to be on track and be with an instructor, or be on track and just be in their own mind for a little bit. One of the things that's great on the track that we didn't talk about, but for a lot of these guys, there's so much going on in their mind that being able to focus on just the racetrack for that brief period of time is the relief from all of the other stresses in the world, because it requires presence, right? And so respecting the time that they have is a good part of the VIP experience. And then there's little things like, having a sandwich and having a drink ready for them so that they don't have to think about that on their way there, because they've got enough to think about on their own.
That's a beautiful place for us to, I think, wrap up the meat and potatoes of the interview. One question is, someone wants to do this and maybe they're not anywhere close to Utah. Is there a way to find places like you, or is there a way for someone to come in and participate short term and then they go back to, let's say that they're on the East Coast? What would you recommend to someone who says, you know what, I want to experience this?
Man, I highly recommend experiencing it in any way that you can. There are so many ways to be involved at your local racetrack or at racetracks across the country. There's a ton of them. They all have really good programs. At our racetrack, of course, you've got NASA, you've got the Burt Brothers Motor Park membership, you've got Autostrada, you've got the Porsche Club of America track days, you've got dealer track days for Ferrari, Lamborghini, and Porsche. You've got, so many ways to get involved, and by no means is any one of those ways a bad way to get involved. Any way that you get involved is the right way to get involved. So NASA is a national program, so you can get involved with NASA in a lot of different racetracks across the country. Porsche Club of America is involved at a bunch of different racetracks, so you can get involved over there. But really, it doesn't matter which program you choose. The more track time you can get, the better you're going to drive, the more you're going to experience that Zen-like peaceful experience. There's no wrong way to get involved at the racetrack. I would just say the more you can check your ego at the gate, the better off the experience is going to be.
Great way of putting it. Okay, Iyar, I wrap up every interview with a pit stop question and then some hot lap questions where I just want quick answers to them. The pit stop question I ask everyone, and it's because I have had these moments where they are expensive lessons, where I have made a choice or done something that cost me a whole lot of money. And if I can feel like someone else learns from that, that makes me feel just a little bit better. So the pit stop question is, what is an expensive lesson that you've learned that you want to help other people avoid?
There's so many of them. So I'm sitting in front of this giant painting of my KTM GTX, and it reminds me that I probably spent 8 or 9 track days and about 4 or 5 trips to the dirt in it before I learned the correct tire pressures. It's such a simple thing, tire pressure. And it's also cost me a lot of money in tires on other cars. But on that car in particular, it was the difference between being in the dirt and being on track, just tire pressures. And it was a miscommunication. So obviously the other part of the lesson there is to make sure that you're communicating correctly with your manufacturer and make sure that you understand where you're supposed to be. But tire pressures have cost me a lot of money, and watch for those.
And that's a great thing that anyone can apply. And by the way, you and I are going to have a conversation after this about KTMs, because I'm really interested in those. Okay, so here are the hot lap questions. These are quick questions, quick answers. You ready? Favorite car you've driven on track?
The KTM GTX.
Bucket list car you haven't driven on track but really, really want to?
Aston Martin Valkyrie.
Most proud track driving accomplishment, and we'll include in that track coaching accomplishment.
Oh, that one's actually harder, I think. Most proud. I'll answer differently, which is there's been a couple of cars that I've driven on track that I was like, oh my gosh, it feels like an accomplishment to get to drive that car on track. And so one of those is the BAC Mono. That felt like, oh my gosh, this is like a dream car driving on track. KTM is like that also. But the Mono was really one of the cars that it was like, I never thought I'd get the opportunity to drive that on track. And so driving that on track felt like an accomplishment, even though it wasn't like
just having the experience.
Yeah, I didn't set any lap records. I didn't do anything special with it, but the experience of being able to drive it on track felt like an accomplishment. And I would say that's the other component is just on a lot of these cars and for a lot of the people that we help get on track, like the experience of being on track feels like an accomplishment. The experience of owning a Ferrari or owning a Porsche or, that feels like an accomplishment. And then to be able to drive it on track also feels like an accomplishment all by itself.
That's really true. Just knowing that you've been able to do this is a wonderful accomplishment. Favorite track you've driven?
I really like Burt Brothers Motor Park. I know it's home track and it's close and whatever, but I'll tell you, you mentioned how safe it is, and I'll mention how technical it is. You go and you drive on some of these other tracks, and one, they're dramatically shorter for the most part, and two, most of them are dramatically less technical and not as wide. And so, don't get me wrong, I really like Spring Mountain as well. Spring Mountain's another favorite for sure. But Burt Brothers Motor Park is world class. It was designed to be world class, and it is world class.
Yeah. And what a lot of people don't realize is that in the full configuration, last I saw, it's in the top 10 longest active tracks in the world. There's a whole lot of variety, 4 different configurations. I can't disagree with you saying that. I think it's a great choice. Best piece of driving advice you've ever received? Where
are your eyes?
Yeah.
So Jonathan deserves all the credit for that one. I had already been driving for a long time, and Law. He's a fantastic speaker. He's a fantastic coach. He's a fantastic driving instructor. I really love that guy. In any case, I had already been driving for years. I was already doing pretty well, and track was already having me give people hot laps and doing whatever. And then Jonathan sat with me in the car, and I'll never forget this. It was actually probably, I think, the greatest coaching moment ever. He's like, "Where are your eyes?" I'm like, what? He's like, you're not looking where you need to look. I'm like, in my head, I said, well, how would you know where I'm looking? And after he said it a second time, or maybe it was like just a little bit later, I was like, I actually yelled back, like helmet on and everything. I yelled back. I'm like, how do you know? And he's like, I'm looking at your eyes. And I turned my head, and his head is like right there, just like that. He's looking at my eyeballs, and I was like, oh man. And he was right, by the way. I needed to look a little bit further forward, and it made a huge difference in driving. So always make sure that you're looking far enough ahead. You're eating a lot of track very quickly. But I'll never forget that lesson from Jonathan. Just what a cool guy.
Yeah. What a great coaching moment. Okay. Last question. What's one thing you want every amateur driver to do?
Come out to the track and try it. You really need to experience it. Unfortunately, and for me also, I had heard for years that driving on track was super expensive, and that it was going to be like, you're going to need a new set of tires and brakes. It's only for the richest of the rich, and it's not for everybody. And there's no way that you'll be able to afford it. I want to tell you that that is not the case. You are not going to burn through a set of tires or a set of brakes in one session. And the amount that you're going to wear those tires and brakes has a lot to do with how you drive the car. Please do yourself a favor and come out and drive on track. That is the one piece of advice that I'd do it. If you're thinking about it, just do it already. You're gonna regret all the days that you didn't do it.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly endorse that message. Iyar, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. Where should people go to learn more about Autostrada or putting their car in the museum? Where would you like them to connect with you?
www.autostrada.life. AUTOSTRADA.life. Autostrada.life. And then for the museum and for storing car, you can go to www.AA, like automotive addiction, .vin, like vehicle identification number. So nice and short. Or if you really want to, automotiveaddiction.com, www.automotiveaddiction.com or www.aa.vin.
Fantastic. It's been a real pleasure to talk with you, Iyar. Lots of great insight and some surprising moments, some things that I had not considered that you taught me. So thank you very much for sharing that with me and with my audience.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. You can ask me any questions that you'd like. If you have a question you want me to answer, if I don't know the answer, I'll find it. You can send those to show@drivesport.co. And also, share suggestions about people you want to hear from or a track that you might want me to visit. You can also send those to show@drivesport.co. So thank you so much for listening. Eyes up and stay fluid.
You've been listening to Drive Sport, the amateur track driver podcast, hosted by DMC and produced by Drive Sport LLC. Research and assistant production by Victoria Bidez. Music is by Illigot via Premium Beat Licensing. If you have a question, guest suggestion, or a track DMC should visit, please send it to show@drivesport.co. Please subscribe to Drive Sport on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you like to get your podcasts. And follow us on social media @Drive Sport Co. We'll see you in the next episode.